Hey you guys, you are probably wondering why I'm sitting here in this dashing hat next to 5 beers. Well, today is March 17th, 2016, which makes it St. Patrick's Day. And St. Patrick's Day is one of my favorite holidays. I think first probably because I am of Irish descent. My grandfather is from Ireland, but also it's a big beer drinking day. If you are new to my channel or haven't seen any of my other videos, a lot of my vlogs are centered around my passion for drinking beer. Whenever I travel, I always like to go to breweries, I like to try local beers, and I've actually dedicated an entire playlist to my beer excursions, adventures, and I'm linking it right here. So if you want to go and check out some of those videos, more brewery tours, more tastings, you can go and check that out in this playlist here. So basically, if you guys are going out tonight to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, if you are going on crawls this weekend, you're gonna see a lot of Guinness. Guinness is easily the most popular Irish beer in the States. It's the #1 imported beer. But there's a lot of other amazing options and more brews that come out of Ireland that are there to try. So basically what I'm gonna do is, I've lined up these beers in light to dark order. And what we have is 2 Guinness beers. One is their Blonde American Lager and their Nitro IPA. In the middle, we've got an OHaras Irish Red and then a Smithwick beer, which is one of the older beers. I think the date says 1710. And then on the end there, we've got a Murphy Stout, which is a really dark, like thick, heavy beer. So I'm gonna go through each of these beers. I'm gonna taste them. I'm gonna let you know what I think, and I'm gonna enjoy St. Patty's Day with some awesome Irish beers. So the first beer I'm starting out with is the Guinness Blonde American Lager. And the first thing that I noticed about it when I was actually pouring it into the glass was the color. I don't know if you can see from there, but it's definitely like this really gorgeous kind of, almost like reddish, orangish, yellowish. I don't know why that surprised me, but I wasn't really anticipating it would be this kind of deep of a color, of an orange, if you will. Particularly when they said a blonde. I was thinking more of like a wit beer almost. But you'll also notice that it's not, by sight and by taste, there's not a huge head on the beer right now. And you can see by the bubbles and by taste, it's not a heavily carbonated beer. Which I actually really like in a lager. You know, if it's really carbonated, sometimes it's you find it hard to drink. But also by smell, and by taste, you've definitely got like some really subtle flavors, but it's interesting, it kind of tastes like cidery. Like it has this almost like apple juice type fusion vibe to it, which is kind of interesting, but you've still got like the hoppiness of it, and the wheat taste in there that you want from, you know, a really great like classic beer. I really like this beer. This is something that I would totally drink on the regular. Yeah, so super impressed with the Guinness Blonde. So the next beer that I'm gonna try is the Guinness Nitro IPA. One thing that I wanted to show you, and I noticed initially when I bought it, which I've never seen in an American beer, is this. When you pick it up, this is what you hear. So basically I looked it up, and they're called beer widgets. Basically, because beer is a carbonated beverage, and you basically seal it into a can or a bottle, the brewers want to preserve the carbonation of the beer while it's imported or shipped somewhere. So they have these little mechanisms called widgets. In cans, I think they're round like this, and then in bottles, they're called rocket widgets, which is a different shape. But basically it balances out like the beer science of it, the like carbon dioxide, I think, while the beer is in the can. So when you open it, you still get that nice fluffy head of beer, even if it's been, you know, shipped or imported for weeks at a time. So I'm gonna open this thing up and try it. So I've just opened up the Guinness Nitro IPA, and it's really interesting. You can already tell by the color of it that it's a little bit murkier than the blonde. Also, you can see by the head of the beer, the foam is much more of like what you would expect from a Guinness beer, which is kind of milkshakey. It's really thick, which is kind of insane because IPAs usually aren't like that. They're usually really crisp, really flavorful. This one seems like the opposite. I mean, it's really subtle. It doesn't even have it kind of has almost like this salty gravy-like smell. A super like silky, just like on the thicker side, but then the color of it's interesting because then it just really does look like an IPA. I don't know, it seems like what you might get if you mix the blonde with like a regular Guinness like drought beer, but like, I don't know, it's definitely interesting, very subtle. I really like the combination of maybe two different kinds of beer together. So yeah, I'm super down with the Guinness Nitro IPA. So the third beer I'm gonna try puts us into the middle of the spectrum where we're starting to get a little bit darker and darker, is the OHaras Irish Red. I have never had an Irish Red. I don't actually even know what it would necessarily count as, if it's a stout or a lager or really what it is, but you can definitely why they call it an Irish Red, because right off the bat, you're seeing that really dark red color. It's probably the same color as like Coca-Cola. You can't even really see through the beer, which is interesting, but it's still got that like brown reddish color. By smell, it smells really sweet actually. It kind of smells like Hershey's chocolate syrup, honestly. There's more carbonation in this one than I feel like there was in the IPA, but this one's a little bit earthier. I think that might be the maltiness of it. But no, it's definitely a really interesting beer. I'd be intrigued to know, and if you know, please leave it in the comments, what kind of meal you would pair this with. Maybe I'll do a video on that as well. You know, what kind of meal you pair this with, just to like complement the flavors, because it's a really interesting balance. But yeah, also a big fan of the OHaras Irish Red. So beer number 4 is the Smithwick Irish Ale. This also has almost the exact same color as the OHaras. You know, this really kind of deep brown red color. But on first like smell, my brain for some reason went to something a little bit more like fruit based, and not citrusy, but like almost like that kind of same twinge that you get from wine. It's kind of this bitter sweetness that I think that I get from wine, the rare instances that I drink wine, but it's definitely similar. You know, it's obvious that that the OHaras and that the Smithwicks are in the same category as each other. They look a lot alike. They don't taste a lot alike. I wouldn't necessarily say that. The OHaras is a lot sweeter. Yeah, I mean they're both really interesting beers, and again, I've never had the Irish Reds before. Also, what's interesting is that Smithwick's is brewed by Guinness. I think that the date on the bottle obviously ages back to the original brewery, which is 1710, which makes it one of, if not the oldest beer that comes out of Ireland, but it is now brewed by Guinness. So no, I again, like they're very similar, but they've got their own kind of personal qualities to them, the difference between the Smithwick's and the OHaras, but I'm also really interested in the Smithwick's Irish Ale. So beer number 5 is the Murphy Stout, and so this is another can, and like when I opened it, actually it had, you know, normally like the cans will kind of fizz at you or whatever just because the seal is breaking, but this one had a very unique kind of break, and this one also has the widget in it too, so I might see if I can open this up. But this is probably the most interesting of the 5 that I've had so far. It looks a lot like your kind of classic, you know, Irish stout, really thick, really dark. But the smell of it and the taste of it are really interesting. Like the smell of it, you kind of almost get like like spices or herbs, but then like a tinge of sweetness in there as well. You know, you've got like, it's just soup, like soupy and like thick. Pretty much no carbonation whatsoever, which is interesting because it really did kind of click open when I opened it. But to taste, there's like no carbonation whatsoever. Again, kind of that like, that bitterness that you get from wine, but it's such a heavy and thick beer that it gets dulled down a little bit. And then the lack of carbonation, it's a really interesting balance. I mean, I definitely think that it's a beer that I would probably only drink one of, maybe two, because it's so heavy. You know, it's not necessarily a warm weather beer per se, or you know, it might be a kind of a beer that you would pair with maybe heavier foods, but it's definitely, I think, the most interesting of the other brews that I've had. Also maybe because I don't drink a lot of dark beer. You know, the beers that I normally drink are pale ales, lagers, maybe like a less hoppy IPA. So this is pretty much out of my wheelhouse, but I'm actually really, really enjoying it. It's just, it's rich, you know, but not like uncomfortably so. It's a really interesting beer. I'm actually very surprised at this one. This was the one that I was probably the most nervous about because it is so far out of what I normally drink, but I love being pleasantly surprised by beer. So this is our last beer, the Murphy Stout, a really great and surprising option. So these have been our 5 beers for our St. Patrick's Day beer tasting. I'll put all the information for each beer, probably name and origin if I can, in the description below so you guys can go and find them. In the comments, let me know, what are you guys drinking today? You know, what's your St. Patrick's Day beverage of choice, whether you're drinking beer or you're drinking whiskey. I really want to know what you guys are ordering wherever you're going today. Also, don't forget, I have an entire playlist dedicated to beer. So if you want to go and see all those, I'll link it here again. Please go and check out those videos. If you liked this video and the tastings, you know, I'll probably try and do more tastings. Maybe I'll do different countries. Please give this video a thumbs up. And then also, to ensure you don't miss any single video I ever post ever, please hit the subscribe button. Then you will get notifications every time I post new videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.